Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Vivian. I'm representing a company called RWE Sol, and I'd like to tell you today about a new generation of energy consumers that we are addressing in rural Africa. Let me introduce you first of all to Jane Rose Onyango. She's a grandmother, 71 years old. She lives in a single-room mud hut dwelling in Sadonge, Kenya, which is on the Ugandan border, and she has the financial responsibility of looking after her 2 sons as well as her 5 grandchildren. A typical day in her life consists predominantly of 3 major tasks. Tilling the land, 2 acres that they have for generating food and potentially additional food for sale, collecting water at a local watering hole, and most of the day collecting wood for cooking. If she's lucky, her family and her find enough wood to cook their meals for the day, to boil the water that they need to drink. And if she's unlucky, she needs to buy wood or charcoal, which is getting more and more expensive. Demand is increasing, supply is decreasing, and as a result, she's suffering. She typically earns somewhere around 16 euros a month, predominantly in donations and a pension. And she spends over 50% of that on her energy needs. Kerosene for lighting, charcoal, and firewood for cooking. With the money that's left, she tries to make ends meet. As a result, she has no savings, her family has no savings, they have no way out, and they live a life of perpetual poverty. She and her family are what are termed in economic terms the base of the pyramid demographic. And those are the about 3 billion people in the world who survive on less than $2 a day. The base of the pyramid demographic is really interesting. In Africa alone, Jane Rose and her family form one of 110 million such families. The interesting thing is that they spend $8 billion or 6.5 billion euros a year on fulfilling their energy needs. A huge market. The interesting thing, in particular in Africa, is that that demographic is expected to grow. It's the only continent in the world where that's the case. The Millennium Development Goals are not seeing results there. And that spend is expected to grow to $10 billion. One further interesting point, these people, given the choice to acquire efficient, more affordable and accessible services, are very, very willing to buy those services. And therein lies our opportunity as a company. A couple of weeks ago, Jane Rose chose to change her life forever. She's one of the poorest people in a village called Sadonge, where we're deploying our first pilot. She now has electricity in her house, and she has fresh water about 50 or 60 meters from her front door, and she's paying for those services. She saves at least 2 to 3 hours a day on no longer having to forage for firewood and water, and as a result, she has more time to till her land, to increase the output of her land, and that generates more income. In addition now, because her neighbor doesn't have electricity, she charges her neighbor's phone at night every couple of days, and is earning somewhere between 2 and 3 euros a month for that service, which generates more income for her. Her family's health and education will improve because of that, and that is what RWE Sol is about. How did that happen? Well, we spent the last 18 months designing, developing, testing a prototype product, then going to production, a product we call Kudura. Kudura is a Swahili word that means the power to change, and it implies the power to change for yourself or yourself. I just recently got back from Kenya where we installed the first prototype. These are some of the photos there. And this unit is holistic in a sense because it deals with a number of issues that cause rural poverty. We provide communities with electricity, we provide them with biogas for cooking, we provide them with biofertilizer for tending their crops and improving the output and quality of the crops that they raise. And last but not least, we provide them potable water in a central point. Let me tell you a little bit about our business model. We manufacture the product according to ISO 9000 quality standards. We market and sell the product to our target buying audience. These are governments, non-governmental organizations, and development banks. These organizations make the infrastructure available to communities on a development loan basis. We install the equipment. Once installed, we then train a community-elected self-help group to manage and operate the unit on a day-to-day basis. And part of that entails the creation of at least 2 jobs around what we call an energy vendor, which is a person that manages that unit on a day-to-day basis. And they get paid for that. So already we're creating 2 jobs where no jobs existed previously. The community who operates the unit buys raw material from, or the self-help group who operates the unit buys raw material from the community for use. Two main components are cattle manure, and the second one is raw water. So people who are prepared to fetch water from the river, kilometre and a half away, bring it to the unit, earn money for doing that. And people who have cattle and are prepared to collect the manure, sell that on a daily basis. That raw material is fed into the unit. We process that material to provide the community with potable drinking water. In addition to that, biogas for cooking and biofertilizer for crops. Of course, the fact that we have solar panels means we generate electricity, and that's where the electricity comes from. The community chooses which of those services they wish to acquire based on their needs, and they acquire those services at rates that are determined by the community for the community. That business model within the community generates a profit which is used to pay down the development loan. Based on the villages that we've started working in and are looking to work in over the next few years, we expect that pay down period is on average around 12 years. So it's a long-term investment. We service and maintain the unit as part of our installation, and maintaining close contact with the community means that we can scale capacity of the unit on a needs basis as the community grows. What we call this is a self-sustaining business model for eradicating poverty and measurable social impact. We have a very strong team in place. That team essentially brings together 4 key skill sets. The first one is over 25 years of technology and energy-related technology manufacturing installation. The second one is over 25 years of global sales and marketing experience across all the continents of the world. The third one is, through our local contacts and partners, is a very close understanding of the rural energy market, particularly the consumers in the rural areas, what they spend their money on and what they want to spend their money on. And last but not least, what brings the team together is a common passion for making a difference and being able to address rural poverty in a way that is sustainable and long term. As I mentioned, over the last 18 months, in terms of achievements, most of our time has been spent on choosing initial sites for our pilots, and then secondly, design, development, and productizing of our initial Kudura units. As I said, just 2 weeks ago, we finally wrapped up installation of our first pilot, and beyond that, we've been driving a first phase of our marketing plan, which is around creating awareness for what we're doing in online and web, but then also from a press perspective. From a business development perspective, we've had a number of discussions in Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, with government level officials about what we're doing. A lot of interest shown. In fact, we plan to have an inauguration event in the middle of December. We're expecting potentially to have the Prime Minister's office presence, which is really powerful for us certainly. A couple of months ago, we were awarded a Portuguese government grant intended to foster the development of Portuguese technology companies for the export market. So it lends some credence to what we're doing, and obviously is a welcome injection of cash. Looking forward, we're now moving into our first funding round, first formal funding round, I should say. And that money is intended predominantly to be spent on a number of initiatives. The first one is cost reduction. Our objective is to reduce the cost of the equipment by 25%, to increase the output capacity by 50%, so that we can provide services to more people for a lower capital investment cost. The second thing is looking to establish a local operation, probably in Eastern Africa, but not necessarily so. The objective being to manufacture, market, and sell the product in Africa as a made in Africa for Africa product. Last but not least, moving to second phase of marketing, we then start to target in a push fashion our primary buyers, NGOs, development banks, and governments, and then of course local business development. Markets tend to be closed in that sense. It's pretty cool. We have local people on the ground that are talking in their own language to their own people in a way that fosters the business. Financials. We have an aggressive plan. Planning to deploy 10,000 units over the next 5 years. We believe we can do this because we have a team in place, we have resources, we have experience on the ground, and expecting then to hit break even in the fourth or fifth year of operation. To do that, we're expecting over the next year or two to take on an additional €500,000 of capital investment. Why would you invest in RBSol? Well, it's an opportunity to invest in a huge market, $10 billion in 5 years, that is growing, using innovative technology that has a social impact. That will create jobs, reduce deforestation, reduce carbon emissions, and ultimately end poverty. As a social entrepreneurship, we measure ourselves on 3 variables: the impact to the people that we, our customers, the people who use our services. Clearly, profit is critical for a business, and then of course, the impact to the environment.